Hey everybody, this video is talking about the importance, I'm stressing the importance that there is an American Sign Language medically certified interpreter in the hospital, hopefully at all times, or at least on call so they can get there to help your patient. This website is a great website if you want to learn basic ASL. If it's a jumpstart to you become fluent, or a jumpstart to you become certified, or just something that you want to know. So if you meet a deaf or hard of hearing person in your medical journey, you know at least how to talk to them, say hi, and you know how to say, let me call for an interpreter. Because again, this is not a replacement for an interpreter. This is an aid for you to better yourselves as physicians, so you're more accepting of different types of people. This is my passion because people should know that there's American Sign Language and they need to know the importance of it. But this is not a replacement. This is an aid for you and hopefully for your patient, so you can make your patient feel more comfortable. But again, I'm going to stress this so many times. This is not a certification website. This is something that is just for you, for your betterment, and to hopefully you spread more and advocate for deaf and hard of hearing people in ASL. But this is not a replacement. I don't even have every word or every sentence on this website, but interpretation is a must need. So if you're really strong about it, advocate for having an interpreter in your hospital. It's a federal law that there's an interpreter in the hospital between a patient and a physician conversation, that there's an interpreter there if needed. But unfortunately, not every hospital has one, and I've seen more than my fair share of cases of hospitals not having an interpreter for American Sign Language. And that is a problem because it's a federal law, but there's just a lack of it. So it's really strong to advocate. I advocate for it. I've sent petitions, I've sent emails. Advocate for having an interpreter in your local hospital, in your medical school hospital, in any hospital that you see that you on the list there's no American Sign Language, or you ask around, or you see, like I've seen, that there's no. You should not be the interpreter. I was in that place and that's not okay. You should have a certified interpreter because that is their job. They're certified to help that patient. Because again, if there's, first of all, no one knows American Sign Language and you have to write on a piece of paper or whatnot, there's even a greater miscommunication. Misdiagnosis, I've heard of a friend who's had that. I've seen cases and research articles of misdiagnosis because of that huge language barrier. Because doctors didn't even know how to say hi, and there's also no interpreter there. So yes, knowing basic ASL and knowing ASL that relates to medically will help you a lot and might help you understand, and you can sign yourself. But if there's an interpreter there, you can sign yourself, even if you're fluent, like I am, but that deaf person wants an interpreter, or not even wants, should have an interpreter. They should have an interpreter there because they're certified, and if something happens, it's kind of on the interpreter is there to make sure that nothing happens. There's no misdiagnosis, no miscommunication. They're there to make sure that the patient gets their diagnosis, their medication, what's not wrong, what is wrong. No matter what language, maybe yourself, if you're fluent, basic, a little bit ASL, there needs to be an interpreter. Many misdiagnoses, many miscommunications, many frustrations from patients and physicians. As a physician, as I said in another video, if you're uncomfortable, have that interpreter so you can talk to the interpreter. You can make sure you're making eye contact with your patient because you don't want to be rude and pretend they don't exist and you're saying, oh, let me talk to the interpreter because she's the one that can hear. Talk to your patient, but make sure the interpreter make sure the interpreter hears so they can say accurately. Make sure the deaf person is asking the interpreter questions so the interpreter can ask you and you can tell the deaf person, yes, this is what. Again, the interpreter is the person and the patient. Let me just, if you don't know, I'm just going to give you a heads up. The interpreter will say, she just got diagnosed with cancer. The interpreter, let's just say the deaf person has a question saying, well, what is my life expectancy since today? The interpreter didn't say, what is mine? It's not hers. She is the deaf person, the hard of hearing person in that moment. That's the interpreter's role. They're going to say I, me, you to describe themselves because they're that patient. So I've actually known someone who got confused by that because they're like, no, I'm talking about her. I am her because I'm an interpreter. I'm not her aide. I'm not her assistant. I am her. I am her language. I'm her communication so that you can make sure that you're giving her the best communication possible. So an interpreter is necessary for the hospital. You don't want the miscommunication. You don't want the poor physician-patient relationship that will happen. This is why this website's to aid, so you won't have a bad one, but you also don't want even a worse one when there's no interpreter. So please advocate for interpreter, for American Sign Language interpreter. They are out of my experience, the worst interpreter, the least amount of interpreters are in a hospital is American Sign Language interpreters. There's other languages that are more common than American Sign Language interpreter, and I don't think that's acceptable because there's so many people that are deaf and hard of hearing that need that interpreter. In the emergency room, there's so many people that come in struggling, and there's no interpreter ever. People that are admitted for weeks, no interpreter. They need that. That is a federal and fundamental right as a human being to have an interpreter. But many hospitals, again, do not have that. Many even regular schools don't have that. I've had experience with that. That's not okay. You need to fight for interpreters everywhere, in the workplace, in the medical field, in the law field, everywhere. Advocate for an interpreter. And that's just something that just stresses me because we need interpreters to make sure that people get good health. If you're becoming a doctor, to advocate and fight and take care of your patients. But you're not doing that if you're not really understanding the need for an American Sign Language interpreter, and you're not really doing that if you don't understand the big difference of the hearing world, the hard of hearing world, the deaf and hard of hearing world, the big difference of language barriers, because there's so much variation being hard of hearing to being deaf. People label them, so people that are hard of hearing are not strong enough or don't have it as a high level, they don't even need to wear hearing aids or something like that. Then they can consult more hearing, they might not even need to see your lips move. But there's people that are hard of hearing that need a sign language interpreter. There's people that are deaf that maybe not want one, and that's their preference. It's whatever they want, but there needs to be that accessibility. That's what I really stress, the accessibility of different people. And right now, the accessibility of deaf and hard of hearing people is very important, and it's going to help, again, if you know basic sign language, to make sure that they feel heard and that they feel like they're a patient and that they're going to be taken care of. But that interpreter to make sure that there's no miscommunication, no misdiagnosis, and that you're actually here to advocate and better their healthcare and healthcare in general. So interpreter is a must need.